It's so good to be with all of you this morning, either online or here in person. I am freed from my prison. Talk about forgiveness and appreciating the freedom that we have. If you guys know, it was about 2 weeks ago, it'll be 2 weeks ago tomorrow, I tested positive for COVID-19. As soon as I kind of knew I had a potential exposure, I tried to limit my contact with my family, and I moved into the basement of our house. I took over a bathroom in the basement, and I had food delivered to me kind of like a prisoner. I was like, if you could just slide it under the door, that'd be perfect. And so I tried to stay away from all of the twins and my wife at home, and so far they haven't gotten sick. I had no symptoms, so it was weird. But just living in the basement of our house. It's an unfinished basement, so I've in my mind I've made about 12 projects that I need to do, which is good. And then every once in a while I got to come upstairs and look around. I'm like, oh, the world is still here. And then I go back down into my COVID cave, as they called it. And so I just want to say, when you do that, when you're in that isolation, when you're in that quarantine, I get it. When you're sprung free, boy, it's an amazing thing. And I think about God's gifts to us and the freedom that we have in Jesus, and it really just makes it all the more awesome, I think, when we can savor that. So I really just want to say thank you, everyone, for being here today, and I just appreciate your prayers and your thoughts. The cards, I know we just wrapped up Pastor Appreciation Month. Really do feel appreciated. Just want to say thank you for that. We're starting a new sermon series here today called Shape. As you can see, there it is. Finding and fulfilling your unique purpose for life. And this is not anything that we invented. There's a book by Eric Ries that we're kind of following. And in our small groups, we're going to be tracking along in this. There's a workbook. If you have a small group you want to get involved with. I know a lot of small groups, while maybe their groups aren't reforming, but this might not be a bad time to jump in with a small group because many of them are jumping in on this and working through this as we go through this over the next 5-6 weeks. So we are so glad that you are here today. As we think about shape, and Caleb was talking about all the different triangles and circles and things like that, we all have a unique shape. In fact, that's kind of the first point, and I don't see my sermon notes got loaded up or something. So, there we go. Number one, all of us can say together, I am unique. You guys say that with me? I am unique. We read in Psalm 139 that God has created and formed us. In fact, He knew us in our mother's wombs. We are wonderfully and fearfully made. As we think about God's amazing grace coming to us, do you realize there is no other person on this planet who has ever lived or who ever will live that is exactly like you? It's impossible, because you are an amalgam of the genetics of your parents, yes, but also of your upbringing, your experiences, where you lived, right, and what you saw growing up. All of those things can mold who you are today, and you are unique. Nobody else in the world is exactly like you. Even you could take identical twins or triplets growing up in the same place with the same parents, going to the same school. There's still going to be differences. There are going to be uniquenesses about them. And if you ever struggle to understand maybe your place in this world, maybe the first place we need to start with is the fact that we are something special. You're one of a kind. It's a strange thought. I know growing up, I was number 4. I don't know if we would do serial numbers or put UPC codes on us, but I have 7 brothers and sisters. I was 4 of 8, right? I was number 4 of 8 kids, and I struggled because I had 3 older brothers, right? Where is my place in this world? Am I even special? And I had a younger brother, so I couldn't be the youngest boy. I had 3 older brothers, what is special about me? And I had an identity crisis like in middle school, right? Where I'm trying to figure out who am I, right? I'm 4 of 8. That's, this identity, it's a number. It's not even something special or different or unique. I had my older 2 brothers were very musically inclined. Right? My brother Phil has become actually one of the rare accomplished organists. Right? He can play the piano with his hands and his feet. It's bizarre, right? I mean, the guy's like, whoa, really good keyboard player. My brother Pete is an amazing musician. He writes and composes songs. He's a band director at a Lutheran high school in Nebraska, in Omaha. And so as I looked at that, I'm like, well, music, I can't be the music guy because those guys have already taken that, right? And I'm like, okay, well, what about being smart? My brother Matt was the valedictorian of his high school class, right? Okay, great. Straight, actually, he had even over a 4.0. I struggle. I'm like, well, okay, I'm smart, but I'm not that smart. Well, I'm too smart to spend all my time just doing the books. That was what I told myself. Anyway, so what is that? I can't do the smarts. Can't do. What about athletics? Right? No, those guys did. Pete played basketball. Matt was a wrestler. I tried football. I landed on a muffed punt once and realized that was done. My high school football career was over at that point as a freshman in high school because I didn't really want to see stars every other week, right? So what was it about me? What I could grab onto and say, I'm unique, I'm different, I'm special. And it's been a long journey. I oftentimes go back to it and wonder, what is it that is different about me in comparison? And if you grew up in a large family, you can certainly struggle with that. Or if you grow up in a community when you struggle to find your place or your position, that's difficult. But when we go to God and he says, listen, I have made you special. I have put you in this place and time and gifted you for right now. I have brought you through all of these experiences so that you can be who you are. And as you understand and find your identity, not in comparison to other people, but just straight and strictly between you and God, you find out that you are unique. You are special. And sure, there are other people who can do things that you can do. Maybe they do them better than you. That's okay. Maybe they see the world in a different perspective and you think, wow, I wish I could look at the world like that. That's okay. You have a unique perspective and viewpoint on life. The next thing that you need to understand about not only are you special, but God put a lot of time, effort, and energy and thought into you. That you are, as we read in Ephesians 2, verses 10a, you are a masterpiece. Let's say that. I am a masterpiece. Can you say that with me? I am a masterpiece. One more time. I am a masterpiece. Guys, God don't make no junk, right? Isn't that the saying, right? God has created you, and not only just are you unique, but you are a masterpiece. You are a segment of the master. You are a piece of the master himself. We are created in the image and likeness of God. And so to deny that is to deny God's power and his creativity. Caleb was talking about Legos, and it struck me. I remember watching the Lego movie. I love that movie. It's a great movie, and there's so many hidden messages and meanings there that maybe the kids miss, and they watch, and hey, it's a good, fun, animated movie. But if you notice that the main character, he is called the Special, right? You want a theological treatise on how people who are even considered mundane or normal can be special. The Lego movie is for you. He's called the special, and he is the special because he has gotten attached to the piece of resistance, which I'd never really thought too much about until I was working on this and thinking about masterpiece. But the piece of resistance in French is piece de résistance, right? What is the piece of resistance in French? Piece de résistance. It is the pinnacle, right? It is the best part, originally best part of a meal. It was the food that came out, and that was the piece de résistance, was the best part of the meal. And it could be whatever course was the best. That was of the chef. This was the thing. And the reason it's special is because there's resistance. This is my piece of resistance. This is the thing that I have to struggle against. And when I do that and I break through and to the other side, you go, wow. The best things that we accomplish in our lives are never easy. They're always the ones that are difficult and they're hard. And think about God with you, and you say, well, I don't know, am I that difficult? What did he have to do to buy you back from your sins? The piece de résistance of the Bible is right there. It's the cross. Jesus Christ giving of his own life. Jesus says there's no greater love than this, that someone would lay down their life for their friends. Jesus laid down his life for his enemies, for those who were resistant to him. And he takes on death with that great thought and concept of this is the best for the entire world. And he fights through. He fights through suffering. He fights through shedding his blood and even dying. He bursts through the grave. What greater resistance can there be so that you and I could be united with the Father, that you and I could be part of God's great family? You are a masterpiece. And finally, that God has created you and made you in this unique way. He has fought for you, and that he has shaped you, and you are a masterpiece of the master of the universe. But he's also done this all with a goal in mind. You see, you all have a purpose. Or we can say it this way: I have purpose. You can put an A in there if you want to. Let's do that. Let's say, I have a purpose. All together. I have a purpose. When we understand who we are in connection with the Father, we realize that we are supposed to be more than just bumps on a log. That God has put us in this place for a reason. He has set us in this time, in this place, for however long we have, for this. I don't know, but why? But God has put us all in this place right now so that we could live through COVID-19. I don't know why. No other generations before us have lived through this. Some of them have lived through similar things, Spanish flu or bubonic plague. Those seem to be a little bit more dangerous or at least deadly. I don't know. But God put you in this world at this time so you could live through this thing of COVID-19 or live during this time of COVID-19. I don't know why. I love the people who keep saying this is the most important election of our time right here. I'm like, it's the most important election because it's the next one. Right? It's the most important one, because it's in 2 days. And so I encourage you to vote and take that unique perspective that you have and apply it to understanding who candidates are, right? But you've been put in this place for this time, at this time, COVID-19, election time. Why? Because God has called you. God has set you here. And so you understand those things, then you have to ask, okay, so now what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with all of this? And that's the right question. That's really how we get to this whole understanding of shape. Because if we understand what our shape is, if we understand how we are uniquely created, how we are uniquely gifted, that really helps us understand what it is we're supposed to do. Because not all of us are supposed to do the same things. That's what I realized when I was in middle school, that not all of us are called to do the same things. Not all of us are called to be high computing individuals and being able to think in theoretical space and be able to program computers to do what you want them to do. My brother, the valedictorian, does that, right? My brain's not equipped to do that. I could probably try and poke at it for a while, but his brain, it clicks. I don't know if he thinks in binary or not, but I mean, it just clicks for him. And you know what? And that's great, because we need people to do that so they can run computers and do these things. But that's part of his shape. My shape is different than his. My purpose, my calling, the things that I do are different than his, and that's okay. Because as Caleb said, all of these shapes that we are and have, these unique masterpieces of God, we think about those, but it's like one big puzzle piece, one big puzzle going together, and realize that when we are together and living and operating and rubbing up against each other with our various shapes, that when we're connected and united in Jesus Christ, that's when the true mosaic masterpiece shows up. That not only are we called to be here in this time and place, but we're called to be in community with each other for now, for this time, and working and using our various different shapes together. And so we're going to be going through what each of these letters mean to help you understand what your shape is, and then maybe what your calling is, or how you can use that in service to the kingdom. And so you think about shape. I like this name, because then we can talk about people who are in shape and people who are out of shape. And I'm not talking about physical shape, but when we're talking about our purpose, if we're operating outside of what God has really gifted us to do, it's going to be hard. You're going to get frustrated. Okay? It's going to be frustrating, because you're like, listen, I should be able to do these things, but I can't do them well or easily. Like me trying to program a computer, I can sort of do it, but it's so much easier for my brother, because that's his giftedness. And so if I try to operate in his area, I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to be beating my head up against a wall, because this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And so if you're frustrated in life, it's very possible that you might not be quite understanding who you are. And there are so many people in this world who are like that just don't quite understand exactly how God has created them. And so they operate on what they think they're supposed to do, but not what God has gifted them to do, and that leads to frustration. And if you operate in frustration long enough, you're going to get yourself exhausted. It's going to show itself in fatigue. You're just going to be wiped out, because you can only beat your head up against the wall so many times before you're just like, this is ridiculous. This is frustrating. I cannot break through. And maybe it's because you're pounding on a wall that you're not supposed to be dealing with. And finally, if you're frustrated and you have fatigue long enough, you're just going to start in your heart this crazy thing of fear that maybe you're not good enough, right? Maybe you're not, and this fear and this self-doubt starts coming in because you're frustrated and you're tired and you're exhausted and you can't move the needle, and you're just full of all of this anxiety about who you are. I tried to be the music guy. I tried to be the smart kid. I tried to do all of those things. I got frustrated. I got fatigued, and I questioned whether or not I should even be on this planet. You know, I get that. I mean, that's where we end up. That's where we end up if we operate too long out of shape. But when we understand how God has gifted us, when we understand how God has molded us, and if we can operate in that, we have this thing of focus. We say, whoa, here it is. Now I understand, because it's easy for me to focus on the things that I can do well. I have discovered that for myself, being in front of people and talking is something that they say there's two great fears in life. Public speaking is one of them, right? I'm like, you know what? Public speaking isn't a fear-filled thing for me like I know for many people it is. And so to stand before you, there's always a little nervousness. But I can focus. And I know that God has called me to be in that situation, possibly to lead or teach or preach His word. That is a gift that God has given to me. And when I'm operating in that, I can focus in on that. And not only are you focused in the things that you can do, but you're fulfilled. When you get done with those things, you're like, oh man, or by doing them, you are filling yourself up. And you're saying, yes, you know what, this is a good thing. I think I do it well. I hope, and I hear from some of you that, hey man, you're really speaking to me today. I'm like, okay, good. The needle is moving. That's not a frustrating thing. That's okay. I'm operating in the way where God would have me to operate. And then the final one is that you would be fruitful. There will be fruits that are shown through those efforts if you're operating in that area where you're in shape. And you can understand that. And so how do we understand what our shape is and how can we operate on that? Well, that's where we get to this understanding that God has given us different gifts. And the S of shape is about spiritual gifts. And we've talked about spiritual gifts before, and there's spiritual gift inventories and things, and some of them are good, and some are better than others. I think this one's pretty good. And you always have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt and say, sometimes our spiritual gifts and our spiritual giftedness that God has blessed us with is for a specific time in our life to operate here, and a little bit later, maybe we're supposed to operate over here, and it can change. But the gifts God has given to you, you are equipped to do things for God. He has created you in a unique way that is different from everyone else. And you have a part to play in this kingdom. And so I pray that you are able to take good self-reflection at this time, to be able to say, yeah, you know what, I really want to know what my spiritual gifts are, and take just a humble look and just say, you know what, strip everything else away from what I understand maybe about myself, and Lord, you fill me. You show me how you have made me in such a unique and wonderful and amazing way, and help me now to live for you. And if we can do that, I know that together we'll have an amazing working together. And it won't even seem like work. They say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's what this is about. Doing what we love and what God has gifted us to do in service to Him. And it just happens. And we have that passion for it. And so this week we're talking about spiritual gifts. The H for spiritual in shape, we're talking about our heart or our passion. The A is about abilities. What are the abilities that God has blessed us with? And then we have the P, and we're talking about our personality. You have a unique personality that God has given to you. And finally, E, your experiences. You have a unique experience through life. And I don't know if there's anyone else who's 4 of 8 who's here. I have a unique experience, I know, in my life growing up. And now we get to use those things for the praise and honor and glory of God. Remember, you are a masterpiece. You are unique, and you have a purpose. If you weren't special, Jesus wouldn't have come, right? If you weren't special enough, He's come for you. He's come for me. He's come for His entire creation because they are so dear and precious. You are dear and precious to the Heavenly Father, and you are dear and precious to Jesus Christ. He died with you in mind Now let's live for him together. Amen.